The real estate agent called me on a Friday afternoon and said, "Congratulations, Mr. Mehta, the sale of the Nainital property has been finalized. The buyers have transferred the full amount and we're just waiting on the final signatures from the owner." And I said, "I'm sorry, which owner?" And she said, "Your uncle Dinesh Mehta, he's been handling the sale directly." And the sound I heard next was the specific sound of something going very wrong. Because my uncle Dinesh was not the owner of the Nainital Lake house. I was. My grandmother had left it to me directly by name in a registered will that had been executed 2 years ago. Dinesh had been managing the property, collecting the rental income, handling the maintenance bills on the understanding that he was the caretaker, not the owner. He had apparently decided those were the same thing. He had apparently decided to sell what was mine. I thanked the real estate agent very warmly for calling. I told her I would need to call her back. And then I called my lawyer. Part 1: The Lake House and the Family. My name is Aryan Mehta and I want to tell you about the lake house before I tell you about Dinesh, because the lake house is the beginning of everything. My grandmother, Kamla Mehta, had bought the property in Nainital in 1978. It was a two-story house with a view of the lake, not the grandest property in the area, but the specific kind that becomes precious through time and love rather than through size or expense. My grandmother had gone there every summer for 40 years. She had taken her children and later her grandchildren. She had made things in the kitchen and watched the lake in the evenings and had been, at the Nainital Lake house, the most fully herself of any place. She had 3 sons. My father Rajesh had been the eldest, had died when I was 19, the cardiac event that restructures everything. His brothers were Dinesh and Sunil. Suresh lived in Delhi and was the family businessman. Dinesh lived in Lucknow and had always been, in the specific vocabulary of families, the difficult one, the one who borrowed and didn't return, who took credit for things he hadn't done, who had the particular quality of someone who understood family sentiment and used it as a tool. My grandmother had understood this about Dinesh. She had loved him, she loved all her sons, but she had understood what he was. And so when she had written her will, 2 years before she died at 83, she had left the Nainital property to me specifically. Not to her sons, to me. She had told me, not through the will, through a conversation we had had the summer before she died when I had gone to Nainital alone to spend a week with her. She had said, "The house is yours when I go. Dinesh would sell it the week after the funeral. Sunil wouldn't know what to do with it. You're the one who understands what it is." I had understood what it was. The lake house was my grandmother's most honest place. It deserved to go to someone who would take that seriously. After she died, Dinesh had stepped in to manage the property. This had seemed practical at the time. He was the uncle who had the time and the administrative habit, and I was 26, living in Pune, working at an architecture firm with the full attention that the first years of a career require. He had handled the rental bookings, the maintenance, the utility bills. He had sent me quarterly summaries, perfunctory brief, the minimum required to maintain the appearance of an arrangement. I understood in retrospect, not paying enough attention. The real estate agent's call had paid the attention that I had been failing to. Part 2: The Legal Situation. My lawyer's name was Priya, and she was the kind of lawyer who made you feel that whatever was wrong was going to be made right through the specific application of knowledge and relentlessness. I had called her within 20 minutes of the real estate agent's call. She had listened to the full version. She had asked 4 precise questions. She had said, "Call the agent back, tell her the sale cannot proceed, tell her there is a legal question about the ownership that needs to be resolved before any transfer can occur." I had called the agent back. I had said exactly what Priya had told me to say. The agent had been, understandably, alarmed. Then Priya had sent the will to the buyer's lawyer, my grandmother's registered will, executed and certified, naming me as the sole beneficiary of the Nainital property. Aryan Mehta, not Dinesh Mehta. The sale had stopped. The buyers had been understandably upset. They had transferred funds, they had given notice on their current property. This was a mess that was not of their making, and I had understood that from the beginning and had been clear with my lawyer that the buyers were to be treated correctly and compensated for the inconvenience. Dinesh had called within an hour of the sale stopping. The call had been the specific call of someone who had been caught and who had not yet decided which strategy to use: the denial, the justification, the appeal to family loyalty. He had cycled through all 3 in the first 5 minutes. He had said he hadn't known the will was registered. He had said he had been managing the property for 2 years and that entitled him to something. He had said, "We're family, Aryan, let's not make this into a legal thing." I had said, Dinesh Chatterjee, the property is mine, I have the registered will. The sale was not yours to make. I am not going to pursue legal consequences because you are family and because it would cost more than it's worth. But the sale is stopped and the property is mine, and that is the end of this specific conversation. He had hung up. I had sat with what he had done for a long time. My grandmother had said Dinesh would sell it the week after the funeral. She had been right, he had waited 2 years, but she had been right. Part 3 Vikram. I need to tell you about Vikram before I tell you about going to Nainital, because Vikram is the reason the lake house became what it became. Vikram Sharma had been my closest friend for 5 years. We had met through work. He was a structural engineer at a firm in Pune that collaborated with my architecture firm on several projects. The collaboration had produced, over 6 months of working on the same large residential project, the specific friendship that professional proximity creates when two people find they think about things the same way. He was 31, 2 years older than me. He had the particular quality of engineers who are also genuinely creative, the structural understanding married to aesthetic instinct, the ability to know both what was possible and what was right. He was someone whose opinions about buildings were the opinions of someone who had thought carefully rather than performed certainty. He was also someone who had been present for every significant event of the past 5 years, the projects and the professional developments, the ongoing situation with my grandmother's estate, the specific labor of being 26, then 27, then 28, then 29, building a career and a life in the way that your late 20s require, with more uncertainty than you had expected and more satisfaction than you had feared. I had been filing something about Vikram for 3 years. Not in any dramatic or unmanageable way, in the quiet way of someone who has noticed a thing and has kept it in a careful place because the time for it has not yet been right. The professional context had been real. The friendship had been the priority. And there was the larger thing, the thing that I had been honest about for a long time with myself and with Vikram, who had known since year 2 without it being announced. I was gay. He knew this, and the knowing had not changed the friendship in any direction, which was the best possible evidence that it was a real friendship. The filing had been about other things, specifically, the way he was in old buildings, the way he understood structures, not abstractly but physically, running his hand along a wall or looking at a ceiling with the expression of someone reading a language that most people could not read, the way he talked about the relationship between materials and time, the way he always had coffee ready when I arrived at his office without asking, the way he looked at me when I said something that surprised him. I had been filing all of it for 3 years. When the lake house situation happened, he was the first person I called after Priya. Tell me everything, he had said. I had told him. He had been quiet for a moment. What are you going to do, he had said. I'm going to Nainital, I had said. I need to see the property properly, understand what condition it's in, decide what to do with it. When, he had said. Next weekend, I had said. A pause. Can I come, he had said. I've never been to Nainital and you shouldn't go alone to something like this. I had looked at my wall. Yes, I had said, come. Part 4 NANIT. We drove up on a Saturday morning, the 6-hour drive from Pune to Nainital through the changing landscape of plains becoming foothills becoming the mountains proper. Vikram drove the first 3 hours and I drove the second 3, and we talked through the whole drive in the easy way of people who have been friends long enough that silence and conversation are equally comfortable. He had asked about my grandmother, not about the property dispute, about her, what she had been like, what the lake house had meant to her. I had told him, the 40 summers, the kitchen where she made things that she only made at Nainital, the specific quality of how she watched the lake in the evenings with the patient attention of someone who understood that the lake was doing something and that it was worth watching. The conversation we had had the summer before she died when she had told me the house was mine. She knew Dinesh would try, Vikram had said. Yes, I had said, she had been watching him her whole life. And she gave it to you because you understood what it was, he had said. Yes, I had said. What is it, he had said, the house. I had thought about it. The place where she was most honest, I had said. She was a certain way in Delhi, the family version, the formal version. At Nainital she was just herself, the house holds that. He had been quiet. That's the most important kind of place, he had said. Yes, I had said. We had arrived at dusk. The house was, as I had known it would be, both everything I remembered and different. The dusk light on the lake was exactly the lake at dusk of my memory. The house itself had the specific quality of a place that has been occupied without love, technically maintained, the structure sound, but the quality of care that my grandmother had given it entirely absent. Dinish's management had been the management of someone who saw a rental property, not the house of a woman who had made things in the kitchen for 40 years. We stood on the porch in the dusk. "It needs attention," Vikram said, not as a criticism, as a professional observation, the eye of an engineer looking at a structure. "Yes," I said. "The structure is good," he said. "The original stonework, you can see what she chose carefully." I looked at the house. "She chose everything carefully," I said. "I can see that," he said. We went inside. I walked through the rooms with the specific quality of someone who is both remembering and seeing. The main room where the family had gathered. The kitchen where she had made things. The upstairs room with the window that looked directly at the lake, the room she had slept in and that I had slept in as a child when she had brought me. I stood at the upstairs window and looked at the lake in the last of the dusk light. Vikram came to stand beside me. We stood at the window for a long time without speaking. "Thank you for coming," I said. "I wouldn't have not come," he said. Part 5: The Days at the Lake. We stayed for 4 days. This had not been the plan had been a weekend. But the house required more than a weekend to understand, and we had both been able to rearrange the following week's obligations, and the lake in late October was the specific thing that makes you want to stay. Vikram did a proper structural assessment of the house during the days, the methodical examination of someone who knew what he was looking at, going through every room, the roof, the foundation, making notes with the engineer's precision of what was sound and what needed attention. He did it because it was useful to me to know, and because he was the kind of person who did useful things without making a production of them. I spent the days in a different way, going through what was in the house, understanding what my grandmother had left in it, what Dinish had taken or changed or removed. She had left things, not significant things financially, the small things that are significant in the other way, photographs in a specific drawer, a journal she had kept at Nainital across 3 decades of summers. A recipe book in her handwriting that was also, I came to understand reading it in the evenings, a record of every person who had been in the kitchen at Nainital and what she had made for them. I read the recipe book at the kitchen table in the evenings. Vikram sat across from me with his structural notes, and we both worked in the specific quiet of people who are doing different things in the same space and who find the shared space comfortable. On the second evening, he had looked up from his notes and said, "Your name is in there." "What?" I said. "The recipe book," he said. "You're reading it, is your name in it?" I had flipped back through the pages. And there it was for Arian, the almond cake he asked for every summer, the one who knows what the house is for. I had looked at it for a long time. "She wrote about you," Vikram said. "Yes," I said. "The one who knows what the house is for," he said. "Yes," I said. "She was right," he said. I looked at him across the kitchen table with the recipe book open between us and the lake sound coming through the window and the October mountain dark around the house. "She usually was," I said. Part 6: The Third Day. The third day was when something shifted. We had walked around the lake in the morning, the circumference walk that takes about an hour, and that had been one of my grandmother's regular habits. The October air was cold and clear, and the lake was doing the specific thing it did at this time of year, the light on the water a quality that I had no better word for than honest. We had walked and talked, and the conversation had been the kind of thing that long walks produce, going further than intended, into things that shorter conversations do not reach. He had told me about his family, his parents in Jaipur, the engineering father who had wanted an engineer son and had gotten one, but had also gotten someone who thought about buildings differently than the father had intended, the specific labor of being the right profession in the wrong way. His brother who was, by all family measures, the correct version and who was, by Vikram's quiet, honest assessment, less happy than he appeared. "You've been the right version," I said. "I've been building the right version," he said. "It takes time." "What does the right version look like?" I said. He thought about it. "Like this," he said, looking at the lake. "Like being somewhere that is actually real and doing something that actually matters, not the performed version of those things." I looked at the lake. "She gave me this place because I know what it is," I said. "But I've been not coming for 2 years. I let Dinish manage it. I let the thing that was given to me sit unattended." "You were building your career," he said. "I was avoiding something," I said. "What?" he said. The specific sadness of being in a place that someone loved who is no longer here, I said. He was quiet. I understand that, he said. Have you felt it, I said. My grandfather, he said, he had a workshop, woodworking. After he died, I didn't go to the workshop for a year. And then one day I went and I sat in it and I understood what it was, not just the sadness of the absence but the presence of the person in the things they made. I looked at him. Yes, I said, that's exactly it. We walked for a while without talking. I'm going to keep the house, I said. I was uncertain when we arrived, I'm certain now. Good, he said. And I'm going to come back, I said, regularly the way she did. Even better, he said. Will you? I started. He looked at me. Yes, he said before I finished. I haven't asked anything yet, I said. You were going to ask if I'd come back with you, he said. The answer is yes. I looked at him on the lake path in the October morning. You pay attention, I said. Yes, he said, I do. Part 7, the evening. On the third evening, we made dinner in the kitchen. This had not been planned, we had been eating at a small restaurant in town. But the third evening had produced the specific impulse of two people who have been in a kitchen together for 3 days and who know where things are and who want to cook something rather than be served. I found things in the pantry. Vikram found things. We assembled a dinner from available ingredients with the comfortable efficiency of people who have figured out how to move around each other in a small space. I made the almond cake from the recipe book, my grandmother's recipe, her handwriting, the cake she had made for me every summer. He had watched me make it with the attention he brought to things that mattered. When it was done, we had eaten dinner and then had the cake with the particular quality that food made from a recipe in someone's handwriting has, the presence of the person in the thing they taught. She would have liked you, I said. He looked at me. You think so, he said. She liked people who paid attention, I said, who noticed the actual thing rather than the surface of the thing. You walk through this house and you see what she chose. The stonework, the windows, the proportions, you see the decisions. It's a beautifully considered house, he said. Every choice is intentional. That was her, I said. She was intentional about everything. Including the will, he said. Especially the will, I said. We sat in the kitchen with the lake outside and the recipe book on the table between us and the October mountain night around the house. Vikram, I said. Yes, he said. I've been filing something, I said. He looked at me. For about 3 years, I said. He was very still. I know, he said. You know, I said. I've been filing the same thing, he said. I looked at him across the kitchen table in my grandmother's lake house. The professional context, I said, we've worked on the same projects. We work for different firms, he said. We collaborate, we don't share a chain of command. The professional consideration is real and manageable. The friendship, I said. The friendship would not be ended by honesty, he said. It would be changed, honestly. You've thought about this, I said. For 3 years, he said. Yes, I've thought about it. I looked at the recipe book on the table, my grandmother's handwriting, the one who knows what the house is for. The timing, I said. Is right now, he said. In this kitchen with the lake outside, I can't think of a more right timing. Neither can I said. Part 8, after the kitchen. I want to be precise about what happened after the kitchen conversation, because the after matters as much as the conversation. We had said the things and the things had been said and neither of us had pretended the things were not said. The specific warmth of the kitchen in October and the lake outside and my grandmother's recipe book on the table, all of it had been the context, and the context had been exactly right. What happened after was this: we sat in the kitchen for another hour and talked about other things. Not avoiding what had been said, the things that had been said were present in the room, but also being the people we had been for 5 years, which was people who could talk about things in the wide sense and not just the focused one. He had asked about the house, what I was going to do with it, whether I would keep renting it or use it myself. I had said both, selective rental, not the maximize revenue approach that Dinesh had been running but chosen carefully, and my own visits, the ones I had been avoiding. He had said, what would the visits look like? I had said summer visits, the way my grandmother did, the lake in the evenings, the kitchen, maybe the almond cake. He had said the almond cake specifically. I had said the almond cake specifically. He had looked at me with the expression that I had been filing for 3 years, and that was, in the kitchen of the lake house, no longer being filed at all. We had sat with the easy quiet of two people who have said what they needed to say and who are now simply in the same room together without management. At some point the lake sounds had changed, the specific night lake sound different from the day lake sound, the particular quality of water at a certain hour. "Come outside," I had said. We had gone to the porch. The lake at night in October was one of the most honest things I had ever looked at. The water still, the mountains reflected in it, the specific deep dark of a mountain night with enough stars to make the sky a different country. We had stood on the porch and looked at the lake for a long time. "She watched this," he had said. "Every evening," I had said. "I understand why," he had said. "Yes," I had said. We had stood close together in the October cold, not the managed distance of professional proximity or even the managed distance of a friendship that had been careful. The honest distance of two people who were where they were supposed to be. Part 9, Dinesh and the resolution. The legal situation with Dinesh resolved in the way that legal situations resolve when one person has the registered documents and the other person has overstepped, clearly and without drama but not without cost. Priya had handled the formal communication. The buyers had been fully reimbursed. I had covered the costs directly because they were not at fault and because they deserved to be treated correctly. There had been a negotiation about the 2 years of rental income that Dinesh had collected, income from my property that had gone into his accounts. Priya had been specific and thorough about this. Dinesh had ultimately returned a portion of the rental income, not all of it, negotiated to the amount that was practically recoverable without a prolonged legal battle that would cost more than it returned. I had taken what was fair and had chosen not to pursue the rest because my grandmother would not have wanted a legal war with her son. I had spoken to Dinesh once more, directly, briefly. He had been in the specific position of someone who had been caught doing something wrong and who had not fully been punished for it and who had therefore not had the experience of full consequences. This was the nature of family situations. I had said, "The house is mine. The income was mine. You managed something that wasn't yours to manage in ways that were not appropriate. That is clear. I am not going to pursue further legal action because you are family and because my grandmother's memory deserves better than a prolonged court case. But I need you to understand clearly that what you did was wrong." He had said, "Yes, I know. And I need you to understand that the house is mine and will remain mine and is not available to you for any purpose without my explicit agreement," I had said. "Yes," he had said. "Okay," I had said, "that's all." I had not expected the conversation to produce an apology. It had not. Dinesh was not the kind of person who produced apologies, but the clarity had been said and received, and that was sufficient. I had called my uncle Sunil, my father's other brother, the one who lived in Delhi and who had always been the quieter, more honest of my father's siblings. He had said, "I heard about what Dinesh did." "Yes," I had said. "I'm sorry," he had said, "he's always been." "I know," I had said. "I'm not calling about Dinesh. I'm calling to tell you that the house is mine and that I'm going to keep it, and that if you ever want to come to Nainital, if the family ever wants to gather there the way we used to, the door is open." He had been quiet for a moment. "Your grandmother would have wanted that," he had said. "Yes," I had said, "I know. She would have wanted you to have it," he had said. "She was always clear about that. Dinesh and I both knew. Dinesh chose to ignore it." "And you," I had said. "I chose not to interfere," he had said. "That was also a choice I'm not proud of." "Come to Nainital next summer," I had said. "Bring your family." He had said, "Yes." Part 10, the distance. Here is the part that was not clean. After Nainital, Vikram and I returned to Pune and the normal life resumed, and the normal life was not the kitchen of the lake house in October. We had said the things in the kitchen. The things had not been fully acted on. The kitchen had been the acknowledgement, not the resolution, because both of us understood that the kitchen was not the right place for the resolution. The kitchen was the right place for honesty. The rest needed time and the normal life. But in the normal life, something was slightly different from before. Not bad, different, careful, different. We were both carrying what had been said, and neither of us had yet figured out what to do with the carrying in the context of Pune and work and the ordinary days. He texted regularly. The texts were warm and normal, and the warmth was the same warmth as before and also different in the specific way of warmth that has been named. We had met for coffee twice in the first 2 weeks back. The coffees had been good and slightly more careful than before the lake, which was the natural result of saying something and then being in the ordinary context where the thing had not been fully incorporated. I had spoken to my friend Ishan about it. Ishan was the person in my life who could be spoken to about things that required speaking about. He had said, "What's making it careful?" "I don't know," I had said. "Yes, you do," he had said. I had thought about it. "I think I'm afraid that the lake was a context and that the context was specific and that outside the context it might be different," he had said. "Less clear," I had said. "Is it less clear?" he had said. I had thought about Vikram's texts, the coffee, the way he had been in the last 2 weeks. "No," I had said. Then he had said. "I'm managing," I had said. "Aryan," he had said. "I know," I had said. "What does managing cost?" he had said. I had thought about my grandmother's recipe book, The One Who Knows What the House Is For. "More than the alternative," I had said. "Then stop managing," he had said. Part 11. What I said. I texted Vikram on a Thursday. I said, "Can I come over?" He replied in 3 minutes, "Yes." I drove to his apartment. He buzzed me up without asking why I was there, which was how he always buzzed me up. He opened the door. He had clearly been working, laptop open on the table, structural drawings spread out, the working evening domestic context. "Tea," he said. "Yes," I said. He made it. He sat across from me. He waited. "The 2 weeks," I said. "Yes," he said. "I've been managing," I said, "since we got back." "I know," he said, "I've been watching you manage." "It costs more than the alternative," I said. "I know that too," he said. "In the kitchen," I said. "You said the timing was right now in that kitchen." "Yes," he said. "This is also right now," I said. "This kitchen is less dramatic than the lake kitchen. There's no recipe book and no October mountains, but I'm done managing." He looked at me across his kitchen table. "You don't need the lake kitchen," he said. "The thing I said in the lake kitchen was true before the lake kitchen and is true in this kitchen and will be true in every kitchen after this one." "Yes," I said. "Stop managing," he said. "I am," I said. "I know," he said. We sat in his kitchen in Pune on a Thursday evening and the structural drawings were on the table and the tea was exactly right and neither of us was managing anything. "What do we do about the professional consideration?" I said. "We've talked about it," he said. "Different firms, collaborative projects we can handle transparently. The consideration is real and is manageable." "And the friendship," I said. "Is not going anywhere," he said. "It's changing, that's different from going." "Yes," I said. "Aryan," he said. "Yes," he said. "I have been paying attention to you for 5 years," he said. "Not performing attention, paying it. I know how you take your coffee and what you look like when you see a building that's been done correctly and what your voice does when you're saying something you completely believe. I have been paying attention to the actual version of you and not the version that's been managing." I looked at him. "The actual version," I said. "The one who knows what the house is for," he said, using my grandmother's words. I looked at him for a long moment. "Yes," I said, "that one." Part 12. The Lake House in Summer. 8 months after Nainital. I want to tell you what the lake house became because the becoming is the point. It had been renovated, not dramatically, with the specific care of someone who understood what it was and who had the professional expertise to make it correctly. Vikram had been the structural consultant. I had been the architect. We had worked on my grandmother's house the way we worked on everything, with the full honesty of our respective knowledge and with the shared understanding of what the building was and what it owed. The renovation had taken 4 months. The structure had been sound. Vikram's assessment from October had been accurate. The cosmetic and comfort work had taken longer. We had been careful with everything, what to preserve and what to change and why. The stonework we had not touched. The kitchen we had updated in a way that was honest to the original without being a museum. The upstairs room with the lake view we had made as right as it could be. The recipe book was framed now. The specific page for Arian, the almond cake he asked for every summer, the one who knows what the house is for, was framed and on the kitchen wall where she would have been while she made it. Vikram had suggested the framing. I had agreed immediately. The first summer visit had been in June. My uncle Sunil had come with his family for a week in July, the first family visit to the lake house since my grandmother died. I had been there for the first 2 days and then had given them the house for the rest of the week. Sunil had called me after they left and said, "It was exactly as I remembered, the house is exactly her." My cousin, Sunil's daughter, who had been 7 the last time she had been at the lake house and was now 21, had texted me after the visit and said, "I didn't know how much I missed it until I was there. Thank you for keeping it." I had said thank her, she left it to the right person. Vikram came in August. We had been navigating the new version of things since the Thursday kitchen in Pune with the care that new versions of important things deserve, unhurried, honest, attentive to what it was becoming rather than rushing toward a predetermined shape. August at the lake house was different from October. The light was different, the lake was fuller, the mornings had a warmth that October did not. We had come for a week, the first time I had taken a full week in years, the choice of someone who had decided to occupy their life rather than manage it. He had walked through the renovated house with the specific attention of someone seeing their own work complete. Not the structural work alone, everything. He had looked at the kitchen and the recipe book framing and the windows and the way the light came in at different hours and had said nothing for a long time. Then he had said, "This is exactly what it should be." Yes, I had said. She would recognize it, he had said. She would feel it, I had said, that's the important thing. He had looked at me. "You know what buildings are for," he had said. "Someone taught me," I had said. We had made dinner in the kitchen. I had made the almond cake, the second time, the summer version. We had eaten on the porch and watched the lake in the August evening, and the lake had been doing what the lake always did, which was be completely and undeniably itself. "Dinesh is going to regret this his whole life," Vikram had said. "He already does," I had said, "I can tell." "Not because he got caught," Vikram had said, "because he would have had this. The house, the summer visits, the family gathering here, he could have had all of it if he had just been the person he was supposed to be." I had thought about that. Yes, I had said, the thing he chose over this was money, and what the money would have bought him would have been less than this. "The thing you build on the real thing is always more," Vikram had said. I had looked at him on the porch with the lake behind him in the August evening. "My grandmother knew that," I had said. "She did," he had said. "She left the real thing to the right person," I had said. He met my eyes. "Yes," he had said, "she did." Clapperboard final hook. The real estate agent called on a Friday afternoon. She said, "Congratulations, the sale has been finalized." I said, "Which owner?" She said, "Your uncle." I called my lawyer. The sale stopped. My uncle had tried to sell what was mine, the house that my grandmother had left me specifically, by name, in a registered will, because she knew that he would sell it and that I was the one who knew what it was for. She was right. I kept the house. I renovated it with the person who had driven 6 hours to Nainital and walked the lake path with me and sat in the kitchen while I read the recipe book and said yes before I finished asking. The recipe book is framed on the kitchen wall now. For Arian, the almond cake he asked for every summer, the one who knows what the house is for. She knew. She knew before she wrote the will, before she had the summer conversation with me, before the 40 summers of watching the lake in the evenings. She knew that the house needed to go to the right person. My uncle sat with money that wasn't his for 2 years and eventually returned a portion of it, and will spend the rest of his life knowing what he chose over what he could have had. What he could have had is what I have now. The lake in August, the recipe in her handwriting, the almond cake made correctly, the porch in the evening, the person who pays attention sitting beside me watching the lake do what the lake always does. She left me the real thing. I am living in it. If this story found something you needed, if someone tried to take what was yours and the truth came back around like it, share it with someone who needs to know that the real thing is worth protecting, and subscribe. Tell me in the comments, has someone ever tried to take something that was yours and what did you do? And one last question. Next summer, I go back to the lake house for the family gathering, the full family this time, Sunil and his family and relatives who have not been to Nainital since my grandmother was alive. And Vikram comes, and at the family dinner on the first evening, someone asks who he is. And my uncle Sunil says something in response before I can answer. Something I did not expect him to say. Should I tell you what he said? Part 2 is coming, eyes. Subscribe, you will not want to miss it. The Revenge Chronicles.